Now, rights groups are warning of violence against minorities in Bangladesh as the country grapples with its biggest political crisis for years. There have been reports of attacks on Hindu-owned homes and businesses, a group seen by some as having been close to the ousted leader, Sheikh Hasina. Now, this as the country's police announced that they're going on strike due to the volatile situation. On Tuesday, Parliament was dissolved after the removal of the long-time Prime Minister, and students who led the uprising say they won't accept an army-led government.
A new day in Bangladesh and a new chapter in its history. While the chaos has subsided, evidence of the turmoil remains. Violence surrounding Sheikh Hasina's resignation left more than 100 dead and hundreds of others injured. Now, many are hoping for calm.
I expect the new government will run the country with honesty. Therefore, the people can live and sleep in peace. This is my only request and desire. We need peace. That's it. We are poor working class people who are daily wage earners. We just want to live in peace.
Sheikh Hasina fled Bangladesh after huge protests against her 15-year rule boiled over. Now Bangladesh's military is putting together an interim government, vowing to take protesters' demands into account.
God willing, whatever demands you have, we will fulfill them. And we will bring peace back.
Student leaders who led the uprising to oust Hasina have made it clear they don't want the military in charge.
No other government will be allowed, except the one proposed by the students and the people. We said we won't allow an army-led government, a government supported by the army, or a B team of the fascist government. We won't accept any anti-people government.
They've got their minds set on who should be Bangladesh's next leader. This man, Nobel Peace Prize laureate Dr. Muhammad Yunus. They say he's agreed to advise a future interim government. Yunus is an economist credited with lifting millions out of poverty. But the 84-year-old faced a number of corruption accusations during Sheikh Hasina's rule. She accused him of sucking blood from the poor. Yunus said the allegations were motivated by vengeance. Now his supporters in Bangladesh firmly believe he is the man who can guide the country through this period of turbulence.
Let's have a look at a few of the issues there with Farwa Aamer, who's director of the South Asia Initiatives at the Asia Society Policy Institute in New York. Welcome to DW. So the country has no Prime Minister and Parliament's just been dissolved. Who is running Bangladesh at the moment?
Sure. Bangladesh remains in flux and coming days are critical. There's definitely a power vacuum. And of just watching your own package, President Shahabuddin had said earlier that an interim government would hold elections soon after. And the Chief of Army Staff has also indicated that there will be an interim government that will eventually take power. The students, protesters, the ones leading it, have made it very clear that no army-led government will be accepted. Only the ones that is supported by the civilians should take charge. There are a number of players right now in this negotiation as we go through this transition period in Bangladesh, which includes, of course, the military, the student protest coordinators and civil society groups, and of course, the opposition parties now. So eventually, whatever happens, it is important that all decisions regarding the interim government should be made with respect to the democratic principles, but also they need to address the underlying causes of unrest, including the economic disparities, the political freedom challenges, and the governance issues that have gripped the nation over the past many months, actually preceding the elections that happened in 2024, leading Sheikh Hasina to her fifth and final term.
OK, there's quite a lot to pick through there in what you've just said. So let me just stop you there. We'll start, first of all, you talked about negotiations. Are there actually formal negotiations going on between the army and the protesters? I know that the army leader said yesterday, the general said yesterday that he's talking to the political parties. But are the students part of these discussions?
It is reported that they are being actively involved, and the indications are that the student protesters, those coordinators, will be actively involved, and that perhaps that's the way to go about it in order to contain the unrest, in order to make sure that there's peace and stability restored. So it is upon the authorities that are in charge at the moment, army, all eyes on the army right now, really, to make sure that there is room for negotiation, there is room for dialogue.
The police have now gone on strike. The Police Association, they went on strike today. Yesterday was the deadliest day since the protest started. So 2 questions, I suppose. 1, who's providing security at the moment? And 2, who was doing the killing yesterday?
When riots and unrest like this happens, it's very hard to sort of dissect and to distinguish, who are the protesters, who are on the right and who are the wrong, and who are the perpetrators. It gets very hard to distinguish that. There are a number of factions at play here. But in terms of, the policing, the strike because of the attacks that have happened on the police stations, and of course in retaliation to the actions of the police forces during the protests that were happening in the past few weeks, it is right in control of the army, as Chief of Army said, that they are taking the temporary control. It appears that from reports that today, on Tuesday, things were slightly more calmer than yesterday, and hopefully we would continue to see that.
And is there a danger of ethnic violence breaking out, given that Hindus are generally seen as being supporters of the ousted Prime Minister's party?
It is an unfortunate time to hear across the world about ethnic violence. And of course, there are reports of violence against non-Muslims across Bangladesh. But there are also reports that there are Muslims that are protecting the sites of non-Muslim worship. So temples are being guarded and other areas are being taken under control to make sure that there is no further violence. But should this order continue, an eye has to be kept on this and on to make sure that rights of the minorities are being protected. This transition period is hence critical on more than for more than one reason. And it is important, as we see, and many in the nation and outside are seeing this as this young Bangladeshi-led revolution, a second liberation day. So for these younger Bangladeshis, it's an important time now to leverage this power to send a message across, to be able to build a vision that is rooted in equality and peace and democracy.
At the start of these protests, there were deaths. There were killing by the army and by the police. As Bangladesh goes through its transition, do you expect there to be a reckoning for those arms of the state that were involved in the killing?
There's definitely an important time. And it's a time for introspection for all the authorities, for all the institutions, and especially those that are directly involved with governance and domestic policies that have affected the kind of civil dissatisfaction, become the reason for civil dissatisfaction, to recalibrate and to see where the policies went wrong. It's also a time to make sure that this transition is transparent and full investigation is conducted into the events that took us all the way here to where we are today, to make sure that those who instigated and those who resulted in the deaths or kind of fueled it
that will have to be held. Oh, listen, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for guiding us through that. Farwa Aamer from the Asia Society Policy Institute. Well, Zyma Islam is a data journalist who publishes regularly in Bangladesh's Daily Star newspaper. Welcome, Zyma. What has it been like there over this last tumultuous day or so?
Hi, it's been a range of emotions, really. Beginning the fall of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, there were definitely huge numbers of crowds on the street celebrating and what's essentially been like a 15-year rule for our Prime Minister, our former Prime Minister. And but then, within a few hours, we've sort of devolved into a state of lawlessness, which is what happens when you have a country without a government. You don't have police on the streets. If you have an emergency, you don't know who to call. If there's a fire in your home, there is no fire service that's coming to save you. And so we are in a state of nation building. We can decide so many things right in this week. We can decide what kind of a parliament we want. We can decide what kind of representation we want in that parliament. There's a lot happening, and this hasn't happened since 1990, which is the last time that we had a public uprising like this, and people brought on a new era of parliamentary democracy.
Okay. But
that lasted 34 years.
Those celebrations, though, have turned quite bloody. And as you say, no police on the street. They're on strike because they're fearful for their own safety. How dangerous has it been on the streets?
If you're a policeman, it's extremely dangerous. I can assure you that much. It's been policemen are being lynched. Police stations have been attacked by mobs. They've been set on fire. Of several times, the policemen were still inside the police stations when they were set on fire. When the policemen got in touch with the mobs, when they came in confrontation with the mobs utilized pretty medieval techniques of killing them, and it's not been pleasant. I think seeing what some of these this protest which has brought about the end to autocracy, it's not been pleasant seeing some of these things coming out of that feeling of jubilation and victory.
Right. So when do you think you can expect a new government to be formed? If you could tell us that briefly.
That's been a question that we're all trying to figure out. So we had expected that an interim government would be announced the very first day that Sheikh Hasina would resign. But
listen, we're having some technical problems with the line.
Tomorrow, I would be...
Listen, we'll leave it there, Zyma. Thank you so much for bringing us up to date. Zyma Islam from Bangladesh's Daily Star newspaper. Thank you so much.
Now, Adilur Rahman Kahn is a human rights lawyer and the former Deputy Attorney General in Bangladesh. He joins us now on the phone from Dhaka. Welcome to DW, sir. Day one after the revolution. Is Bangladesh a country in chaos today, or would you say that the transition is proceeding in an orderly fashion?
Thank you very much for having me. I believe that Bangladesh is going to be a better country. It's going through the transitional process, and whatever some violence and some incidents we hear, these are people trying to resist, and basically the students are taking control of the roads, traffic control and everything for a kind of for a peaceful situation. And I believe that whatever this uprising, you can call it uprising, you can call it revolution, will definitely bring results for the people of Bangladesh.
The students are very clear. The protest leaders say that they want the Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus to play a prominent role in any interim government. Do you think he's a good choice?
He is possibly the only choice now, because the protesters, the students, the people of Bangladesh, they did not want any kind of martial law. They don't want any kind of military-backed government. That's why this is possibly the only choice. They can have the interim government, and then they can go for a free, fair election sometime soon.
The protest movement was united, wasn't it, by its goal of toppling Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Now this goal has been achieved. Do you believe that the students have the strength and the unity to become a political force that shapes the country's future?
Of course, because always students and young people shape this country's future. Whenever there was a problem, young people came out, the students came out. They changed the course of the history. And this time they did it again. And I have firm belief that this student-led movement will bring democracy, will bring justice for Bangladesh.
Sheikh Hasina and her party obviously had enormous influence in Bangladesh for many years. Will they submit to this new beginning without resistance, do you think?
Their influence were due to force, by applying brute force on the people. Their influence was not basically from love from the people. It was brute force they used. They disappeared about 700 people. They have extrajudicially killed about 3,000 people. And that was their process. That was their rule. That's why people were scared. And now, when they have gone, you see that their system, their party is crumbling down. So it's no longer a popular party. And I believe that the new process will come out, the student-led political process will get momentum.
Human rights lawyer Adilur Rahman Kahn, thank you so much for your time today, for speaking to us here on DW. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.